Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Photo Country. I'm your host, Rajiv. In this episode, I caught up with a good friend of mine from back home, Devang Singh. He's one guy who dons many hats: photographer, filmmaker, director, creative entrepreneur. I like to call him a photopreneur, if there's ever a word like that. I just invented it. So, without much ado, here is Devang Singh. Thanks, Devang, for making the time to come on the podcast.
It's my pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the show. We go back a long way, right? So we've shared some good memories together. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, right? So, how did you get into photography?
I'll start from the very beginning. The point is, you might feel like this story feels like I've made it up. It's not. It is actually what's happened. So my wife right now just got married 3 months ago, Shreya. I met her in Bangalore. At that time, I was working with Dell. I was a manager, handling their SME business and all of that. And I kind of loved everything that I do. So I was loving that job. And there was a lot of creatives that we had to make. And there was a lot of photography that I had to get done. There was a lot of ads that I had to get made for the marketing. And suddenly I had this bug in me that, okay, this is a very interesting beat. And Shreya was with me one of these days. And while I was going through my phases of everybody goes through that corporate versus doing your own thing, and if you're in a rat race, I was in those moments and she had forgotten her Nikon D3000. I still remember that camera at my home. And I just decided I'll just pick it up and just see because it's a digital camera. I'm not spoiling anything. So I just picked it up and started shooting. And I remember my first image that I shot was the inside of a washing machine. And it was a top load, I still remember. And it got those facets and I put some tube lights on. The facets were reflecting light. I kind of got mesmerized by that. And from that moment onwards, I just couldn't leave the camera. And it wasn't that I found photography. It's like the photography just found me and got me into this abyss in the beginning, which was very dark. Where I did not know what I want to do with it, what is the plan. But one thing I knew that I wanted to just click. So the journey started, like the first thing started from there. The moment came in contact with the camera. And Shreya was into photography, and she was a huge influence in my life. And and this I'm talking about 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago now. And she had basically she was applying for a course in photography, and that was the turning point for me as well, where I thought like maybe I could leave my job and do a course. And I took that decision, a very hasty one, impulsive. Everybody was telling me, "What are you doing? Why would you leave your cushy job?" Or that I was like, I need more than anything else. I need happiness in life, and everything will follow. And so we both decided to go to Light and Life Academy in Ooty and study photography. I knew that I wanted to make it a profession. And at that time, 13 years ago, you didn't have so many podcasts. So we did not have so many like YouTube tutorials and stuff like that to learn photography. Obviously, there was some research articles and you would go into blogs and try to figure out. I think the WordPress was very big at that time. So I was going through photographers, WordPress sites and understanding it. I bought my own lights. I bought my own new Canon 550D at that time and just started experimenting at home. And I just went out to different restaurants and cafes and said, "Hey, do you want free photography?" That was the way it started because I was like, I just wanted to shoot. I didn't want any money for it. And suddenly people started really appreciating it. I started putting her work up on Facebook at that time. And external validation was a very important part for me to see that there is something in there. And though no matter what, at that time, everybody was into photography. Everybody was putting it up on Facebook. I loved the external validation and it validated my own validation, which was being. And that's how the journey really started. Then we were in Ooty. That was just magnificent. Like the place where like 30 photographers sit, eat, sleep, work, everything together. It just opened my mind to the possibilities. So that is where the journey really started.
Interesting you mentioned the academy that you went to. Most photographers, probably 8 out of 10 photographers, don't study photography in a formal fashion, right? They're mostly self-taught.
Right.
They pick it up by accident and they get fascinated with it, and that's how they enter into the street. Do you think you would not be the photographer that you are today if you did not do that course?
I would have not been this photographer, but I would have been a different photographer. Yes. there is a huge impact on what those studies were for me. I think more than learning technicals and more than learning what photography is, being in a community, living with them for 30 of them for a year and a half really opens your mind to another level. So I don't think academic learning is a must have for photography, but a community that you build and you be with has a lot of insights that, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get by just being in my silo and photographing. I'm an extrovert, so I work with people. For me, people's energies are very important. So I thought like the course was a very important facet in my life, which turned things to whatever I am today. And I really, really give all the credit to my professors, Mohammad Iqbal, Sudhan Vatri. There's so many of them. They gave us everything. Like, for example, critique classes in college was something. Imagine like you put up a photograph, everybody would say, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. But there are very few people who say, hey, this part of this photograph is not right. There's something off that I feel in this small corner in the photograph. That kind of critique only happens with the community and only happens with people who have some insight. So I think that is that was very necessary for my journey. But at no point I say that an academic qualification is very important to be a photographer.
So you started off like that, and after that academy, what happened? Did you straight away get into professional photography, or it was just like a side gig and you were doing something else?
No, so I was very clear that if I am going to go into photography, then my entire life will be dedicated. I did not want to dilly dally and start thinking that, okay, I'll do this also, I'll do this also, and this will be a side hobby thing. So while I was in college, I actually started off with wedding photography. I used to go to within my college because I was also paying for it. I wanted to get some money. And in the middle, when we'll have 2, 3 days off, I'll fly off to Delhi. I'll shoot a wedding and I'll come back. After the course was over, the first thing that I did was build a studio. And I was like, I don't want to go into assisting people right now and learning the art more because I did that first. And I think so there was a lot that I learned from. So usually people go with the assisting route and learn from other photographers. But I was like, I had made my own niche and my own style already. So I don't need to do this. Then I opened the studio and I had kind of a network in Delhi because I was born and raised here. And I started talking to people and starting off a really low brand, which had no name. I did everything, eating lunch from my tiffin, sitting in a car, waiting for one client to let me into their office, from just knocking on some agency's door saying, hi, I'm a photographer. There's no meeting set up, nothing. I need some work. So I was passionate enough to like not have ego come in the way or any of those, feelings to come in the way. I was like, I want to do this. The best way to do is just knock on doors, man, and get what you want. So I started off like that.
So that was the roots for Studio Fry.
Yeah, that was the song rules for Studio Fry. So I'll tell you what, like for me, photography was just a visual medium, right? And it doesn't mean that I was only interested in photography or using the camera. I was also interested in design. I was really interested in 3D and motion graphics, and you know that we really jammed on. We were thinking about VR, I think so 8 years ago when we were trying to figure out how we can get augmented reality and virtual reality industry. So I'm a techie. I get very nerdy when it comes to technicals about the camera work or about how I can do two things and do a mixed media creative. So all of that was happening in my head while I was photographing for plants. And with the camera, I soon realized that I want to get into videos as well. So I started becoming a DOP and learning different camera systems and working with the Red, working with the Alexa profiles, Sony's. I wanted to get into everything. Like the fickle-minded person I am, though I'm very clear that I want to do visual communication, but I want to learn everything that there is in speed. So I was looking out for that. I started making short ads. I was working with directors, and that's the time when I met my partner, Vidut Gupta. I think you met him. And what we were not thinking about making a company. That was never our intent. We just met to like jam and see what we could do. And suddenly it clicked so well that he was a post producer and a CGI, motion graphics, cinema 4D guru who was teaching at Academy of Art at one point in time. And here I was, who was loving the photography and the videos I was doing, and I needed that exact support. And he loved the production side. So we both came together and started Studio Fry some 8.5 years ago.
So starting as a corporate marketing guy, then branching off into photography, following your passion, and now the owner of a studio. It's been quite the journey for you, Devang. So, what kind of stories do you like to tell through your photographs? Like, I know that you do a lot of food photography, right? So,
Right.
what exactly in photography is like your passion? What is it in photography that you really like to do? I mean, I know there is a commercial photography. You get to do a lot of projects which the clients want.
Yeah, there's a decision that you have to take. Like, for example, I know a lot of photographers who are just commercial photographers or only do photography when there's a project. I do see, like, when I say storytelling, I think every image has a story. Even if I'm working with a brand or a commercial company who's given me a project to execute, and obviously there's feedback and all of what they want. But at the end of it, before I get into the project, I've already made stories of each photograph. For example, even if I'm clicking something which is as trivial as a pizza, that pizza needs to have what I will tell the audience. Obviously, from the client perspective, please buy my pizza, right? But if I'm going to, if I'm shooting for Domino's and they want us to shoot like a new Indian regional chicken tikka pizza, that's something that just came up and was shot. I wanted to tell the story of this being as an Indian festive occasion, right? And how the one thing is you just put the props around it and you know, just do it. But I think it's about the composition. It's about the hand that was picking up the pizza. It's about what was in the hand, what was the chudi that the person, chudi is basically bangles, what was the bangle that the person was wearing. All of these things will emote as you see the photograph. And now our attention spans are so less when we're doing it on Instagram. You don't like to see the entire photograph. But for me, each photograph, each corner, every pixel is making a story book. And what you are reading is a chapter when you're just going through Instagram these days. So I think about storytelling like that. And it's very valid what you were saying that there are certain things that you need to give to yourself apart from the commercial advertising. And that's why I do books. So I authored a book called Bhagwan Ke Bhagwan, which is Food of the Gods. And I traveled with my co-author and we basically went around India, tried to search how food and faith connects with each other. And we went into local cuisines, understanding what the local alcohols are, obviously, because it's me. And it was, that is more exhilarating. So if somebody asked me today, what is your greatest achievement is that book, none of the commercial projects that I've done. Because that's how I feel. Because that is my fuel for commercial projects. I get my satisfaction as a creative, as a person who took up photography to give to the world, which I get from there. I supported a lot of local communities in areas where there's no electricity, making them known to the world. Going to Wrong Music in Meghalaya and staying with these guys and understanding their culture and being a part of that entire thing. And then getting him down to Delhi for a book launch and making them aware of how things happen makes me feel very good. And I think that's my way of, on one side, telling people to eat sugar through my photography. And on the other end, I do this to make people aware of sustainable living and sustainable food cultures around.
You are a commercial photographer. You do projects based on the briefs that the client gives you. Whether or not you agree with it, that's a different question. But as an artist, as a photographer, there are different push and pulls, right? So why I'm asking you this question is that I talked to a photographer sometime back, like a couple of episodes back, and he has a clear vision for his commercial work and his own personal work, right?
Right,
It's like night and day.
right.
So he says that he's in a commercial photography world. Like, he feels that he has to play a role, and everybody plays a role. It's like a play, and each of the characters have a role to play, right? So he detaches himself and then plays a role there, and he plays that
Mm.
role, and that comes out of it, and that does his own work as an artist, which is completely different to his commercial work. How do you treat that? Is it the same or is it different?
It's a switch. It's a switch on and off. So with commercial work, what again, I used to be really passionate when I started for 3 years, 4 years. I was like, oh, this is life. And what I realized with commercial work, you need a little bit of detachment, which is very like what the other photographer that you're talking to. That sense of detachment need to be there because here the product is not just your creation. Here, the product is exactly correctly said. It's a play where everyone plays a role and then that photograph is born. Now, sorry, I was just segueing a little bit here. So I just don't photograph. I also direct ad films and I also POP ad films. So when you're doing a directing of an ad film, then the team, which is like in photography, like 2030, are now dealing with 200 to 300 people on set, right? And then that is one product that I'm building. And it's not just mine, it is everyone's. But that switch off, once I'm done with the project and I'm back, is very easy. I can switch off from that and then get into my research, which is, my next book that I'm working on is for Korea. And I want to figure out how Christianity really came into Korea. So I go into that research more. And that is where I get all my inspiration, and I take out all the creative energy that I have into that and then figure out what I want to do next with that and start making presentations and going. So, and at that stage when I'm making the books and when I'm photographing for the books, it's all me. It's not a play anymore. Now it's like a monologue. So you're just going in and you're meeting people, and it's all about how you interacted with them, what their expression is going to be. It's all about the light that you were able to get in that location where that food is being done, and which angle did you take and decide to shoot it, because there's no pre-production meeting to tell the client that in this angle at 45 degrees with this light and these props I'll be shooting it. Then it's spur of the moment. That's where the true artist comes in. And as every artist, I think it's every creative, every artist should also have art therapy, and they should also go for therapy and understand their brain a little more. So during that process, what I realized was there's something called the concept of the genius with it, which is something that is inherent in you, and you will always have that little fear when you go doing something. But when that genius or that creative uh, force comes out of you, you don't know. It's not in your control. It just comes out and it creates.
Right.
And I strongly believe in that. I strongly believe in the fact that there is something that is inherent in all individuals. I'm not just saying just me. There is a creative genius in everyone, not even not completely non-creative people can also have a creative genius, and it comes out suddenly at certain places. So I don't wait for it, or I don't expect it to come out or anything, but it automatically, once I have the camera, once I have that moment happening, it'll happen. And Raji, now
Right.
you also do photography. You might be just going out in the pier or just walking around. You see light differently. You see certain things that nobody in the world looks at. Like for me,
Right.
certain times my wife and I are sitting and I'm zoned out at a restaurant because there is this curtain moving and the light is hitting this one salt and pepper shaker where the thing is rated. I'm like, oh my god! Like, people think it's crazy. It's a crazy thing, but that is the hunger that the genius or the creative. Because genius actually is not that word. I'm talking about the genie with it. Where it comes from that
Right.
jest.
Right.
So
Right.
that comes out looking at those things and feeding on those little moments that are happening. And that comes to you when you're creating your work. So that the genius is always on.
Every artist has a style, right? But when it comes to commercial work, do you have a style? How does that work?
I don't intend to have.
Okay.
The problem is that commercially people choose you based on your previous work. It's very difficult. For example, now I'm venturing into the beauty space. I was not in the beauty space a lot of that. I was doing a lot of food and product and all of that. And then in films also, I was doing a lot of robotics and slow motion films, and how beer will pour out of it into a glass. But now I'm getting into beauty. Now, this is a transition, right? Like for me, it is a style transition. But people will look at my color and color work, which was done 5 years ago, and give me the same brief and saying that we shoot this, right? Because they see that, like, and sometimes you will have to give it and give what the person is wanting. But with certain clients, I get that leeway, which who understand, and I say that this is the past, we've done this, let's take it to the next step. So I don't want to be typecasted as a style. I don't think I do everything under the sun and everything differently. My specialization in photography was industrial. So I also shoot factories, which give me some crazy amount of pleasure. So I don't want to have a type, but I have been typecasted by the people who view my portfolio.
Do you think that is a limitation?
The question plagues me every day. I do want to do other stuff. For example, I want to get into automobile. I want to get into performance films and stuff like that. But you don't have it in your portfolio, so the client won't come to you to experiment and do that. And these are bigger productions and stuff, so you can't do them yourself and invest that money. Maybe in the future, I would be do that. So it's not a question that you can answer for yourself. At the end of the day, as a commercial artist, you're bound to what your uh, let's call them overlords paying you and getting work done. So you have to give them what they are looking for. And it's
Right.
very difficult for you to break out of that mold because people think that these are the films that you're good at, and they will keep coming up with scripts which are very similar to that, or they'll keep coming up with mood boards for photography which are very similar to that. And you can see that on my portfolio also. this color blocking and hard light is become like the advancing thing, though it feels like any image on Pinterest. But it feels like any image on Pinterest. And but the client comes to me and gives me the same kind of looks because that's the trend. And then you match the trend and you work according to that. So my point is to just make that look the best, right? And the styles are actually chosen mostly by the client. I can just give my 2 cents to.
In fact, many film photographers that I've spoken to made the conscious decision to stay amateur because then they're not beholden to any client and they can shoot what they want and be true to their artistic sense. What do you say to that? What happens is when passion is great till it becomes a job.
I think that's where I feel like I'm a little different. I think
Right.
I'm equally passionate to also do that client job when I'm on set. I get really flustered with the client feedback and they want things to be changed. Move the spoon. I have had someone saying move the spoon 12 degrees right. I've actually had to, and some clients are like that. That's fine. You're a team, right? When you're working like that. And I think passion, your passion has nothing to do with an external force or a client. If the project is passionate, and for example, when we were working with Indigo Airlines, I the client could see my passion while I'm working and gave us complete free will. Oh, why don't we change this order? Right? Like I think passion is within, and we can't decide external forces to tell how passion really works. So I do disagree with that a little bit. I also the fact with professional photography or when you become a professional and you're doing work as a commercial artist, it's very important for you to have that same passion growing within to be that commercial artist. Otherwise, you're not doing true to your work. Otherwise, I would have stayed Dell itself. If I was not enjoying and being passionate about what I do, I still enjoy every new brief that comes my way. I still enjoy making every PPM mood board. I still enjoy that first moment when I go into the set and I do a test light and I figure out everything, what my colors are. But each shoot, if you see my studio, I would love to give you a tour of the studio maybe at next time. I'll show you that I have everything. Like I have backgrounds, bases, different kind of gobos, patterns, props, crockery. Everything is out there because every project I want to get something new. I want to do something completely different. I want to get a color that can work in a different light, a different way. So for me, I have small quirks of passion which I embed into each project. So in this project, I have to try out this little thing. Okay, that's my passion for this project. Like we're shooting tomorrow actually for this company called Dr. Octo. I'm just giving you a very live example right now. And the whole point is there about Dr. Octo is it's a cleaner, like an all-purpose cleaner. It's got toilet cleaner, stuff like that. But the place where the person is coming from is using only natural ingredients into the process and also using probiotics, which people don't understand that work very well with how all-purpose cleaners work. All of these things, and he's thinking about Dr. Octo not from a phase of Spider-Man. That was my first thought. It actually comes from the fact that how an octopus is a very intelligent being and he's working towards the ocean. All his bottles are biodegradable. All of these things make a new pitch for me. And we're doing an entire ocean theme for creating toilet cleaners for it, which is sands and beaches and stuff like that. So for me now, that has become like a new thing. Like, how do I shoot a household product to look like it's a product image inside the ocean? So
Right.
I created that passion for me. The client never wanted it. He wanted just, put it inside a room and take a shot and behind should be a WC or a washing machine. But that's where I put my passion into each project. And I think that's very necessary for a commercial artist like myself, apart from all the personal work you're doing or the books that you're working on or anything that you're doing for yourself. So your commercial art, there has to be, yes, one is the money component. You need to take the money out of the client and the money needs to come to you. But very importantly, are you enjoying that money? Are you exactly doing what you felt and you left your Dell job for one reason? Not to be like, hey, why am I getting up and doing this? I never had that feeling. I've never had that on my side.
Just digressing a little, a lot of people who get out of their jobs and follow their passion, doesn't matter whether it's photography or any form of passion, don't think about the practical necessities of life, right? Like having a roof over your head and food and paying your bills, etc.
Yeah.
So they get caught up in the whole passion and the artistic side of things and get really bogged down and get frustrated on the business side of things, right? So how did you make the transition from being an artist and being in a business like an agency or a studio?
I still debate that every day. I still believe that I don't have the balance. It's very difficult to be an entrepreneur and a creative at the same time. So there were different ways to think about it. Let me do this question in two parts. First is leaving your jobs and getting that passion to get into something and getting popular. And the second part would be, how do I manage the creative and the entrepreneur role together? Now, when I had to leave my job and do this, I did have a vision. I've also had done my financial calculations. I had done every bit of research and thought process before I decided to leave my job. Will I be able to sustain myself? What are the ways to sustain myself? Do I have to take a loan from some place for this much time? I had all that vision. I think it's very impractical for someone in today's day and age to not think about pros and cons list and make all of that to take a decision in life. Then I think you're being more impulsive than passionate. I think passion is there, but don't make the passion so overbearing that you do something in your life that you're not very happy about. And that is the device of passion. If you're doing passion, passion comes from a very happy place. And we need to realize that happy place. If your passion is going to create depression in you or create a feeling of lack of being able to afford things or be in a nice house or having the roof over your head, having the right food to eat, then I think now that passion is going to become a negative than a positive. So when you're taking those decisions in the beginning, you have to evaluate. Like any other thing, any business or any personal thing also, when you have to take decisions, you think about it, right? So that thought process is very important before you follow a passion. I personally believe that. So if you do this, then these 6 months you will not have that much income. You will be trying to get more work. Do you have this much income to sustain yourself for 6 months? It's a very important question that you ask yourself. So that's one part. Second is balancing my creative with the entrepreneur. I got. It's very difficult. I get baffled every day. Sometimes I have to don the hat of the co-founder or the executive producer on the job. And that time the lines get a little blurred because for a client, I have to give them the logic of things, talk about the money of things, and also be creative. And that's where the lines get a little blurred. But the entrepreneurial aspect of making and building and scaling a company, that is wherever I get downtime. And then every time I think about one thing, I put them into my to-do list, which is not. So I will pick up from that. Okay, this is a to-do list that I have. So it's very important for you to, be organized as a creative entrepreneur. The biggest skill of a creative entrepreneur is organization skills. And I don't mean organization, but just writing. It's mental organization, having compartments in there to be creative at times, be businessman at sometimes, being like a salesman at sometimes you're just a client servicing executive. So you have to don those hats. And I think that compartmentalization is very important.
Who are your role models? Who do you look up to, or who do you look for inspiration?
So I'll tell you what, like for me, still the classics are my inspiration. Bresson, Henry Cartier-Bresson, Richard Avedon. I think so. There's McKay. All of these guys have been the influence, right? But this is one guy I love was Joey Lawrence. Again, and he's very like travel nature. The type of stuff that he does is brilliant, and that was the kind of stuff that really inspired me. So I don't have an inspiration currently. For me, the inspiration can be, it could be an artist, it could be a painter, it could be a musician. So now my inspirations or artistic influences are not just photographs or looking at it.
So we talked about a lot of things, and I think when someone hears this conversation, they can get a clear picture of who their Singh is, right?
Thank God. Yeah,
Okay.
please send this to me also so that I get an understanding of who I am.
The raw version, the edited version.
No, give me the edited version. I can't take too much of myself.
Right. If you are going to encourage other people to get into photography, what will be your advice?
Pick up the camera, learn it. Go with the camera, feel the camera, become the camera, go outside. Don't get into this tech nonsense of getting 50,000 lenses, getting into, oh, I can do this, I can do that, reading on blog, going into Instagram, getting all of that. I think what you need first is the true love between you and your camera. And that's not That doesn't come. So when I talk about external validation also, that's the secondary or the third tertiary step. I don't think so is the first step. First step is to develop that relationship, whether you want to do it. And don't have that approach. I won't do anything else. So let's try photography because I know there are people like that who go like that. And you can still do that and get passionate about it. I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do. I couldn't do anything else. I wanted to try photography and then the bug catches. But be true to your love. Be true to what you're doing. And then make a decision whether you want to become a photographer. So don't buy a DSLR and put a page saying I'm a photographer. Like that's not who you are. Like you first develop that passion, develop a body of work that you love yourself. Don't get like 50 lenses, just get a 50 mm 1.85, it's 5,000 Indian rupees that lens comes for. Get a really small camera, just even if it's a second-hand camera, put that lens, go close to a subject, go back from a subject, understand aperture, not just read like charts of it, go and understand aperture, go and understand exposure values, what an EV really is. Like,
Right.
these things will make you feel whether you want to be a photographer or not. It can't be forced. You can't. I can't tell you, Rajiv, from today onwards, you will be photographer. And you can become a clerk at a place, you can become a client servicing, you can become a producer, you can become sales. But an artist is actually something that you will get that feeling. It's like love, dude. It's actually love, to be honest. It's that feeling that you can't tell others what that feeling is.
Right.
So yes, please get into photography and love it, own it, and then get into photography. First, be a photographer yourself.
Thank you, Devang. Thank you for your time. That was a great conversation.
Thank you so
And,
much for having me, Rajiv. Honestly, this is the most formal conversation I've ever had with you in my life. It's fun.
Thanks, Devang, for coming on the show. It was such a treat talking to you. You can catch his work on devangsingh.in or go have a look at the studio he co-founded, studiofry.com. I will share the links in the show notes. I hope you liked this episode. Please do share this podcast with someone who loves photography. Till next time, stay safe and keep clicking.